I think that embracing a high pain tolerance or developing it was also a coping mechanism that I used to silence my inner voice, because it was so merciless and such a demon on my back that at any given time, if I scored, just even metaphorically speaking, 99 out of 100, the only thing that mattered was the one thing that went wrong. And how could I be so stupid or so lazy or so inept or so blind to get that one thing wrong? And the immersion in physical pain through wrestling, through the training that goes into it, through the cutting of weight, which is just atrocious, I think was a coping mechanism that I used to silence that. And as you've experienced in your life, high tolerance is not always a good thing, right? So I ended up being introduced to really strong stimulants in high school, ephedrine hydrochloride combined with caffeine and aspirin and the whole 9 yards, things beyond that. And they were tools that I also realized I could take in tremendous quantities compared to other people, which I viewed as a superpower. Maybe. Now, there are superpowers.
That's a different kind of pain tolerance.
Yeah. And so what I thought was a gift ended up becoming a major handicap and ultimately addiction for me that really has only been kicked, at least for the time being, in the last few years. I mean, relying on stimulants of different types. And the realization that I had this partial completeness and a lot of blind spots and also unresolved facets of myself did come from some really, really tough periods. I mean, there were many of them, but one in particular was several years ago at the very end of a 4.5 year relationship. And she's a beautiful human being. We're still friends to this day, but she was as opposite on the emotional spectrum or on the empathic self-compassion side of the spectrum compared to me as you could possibly imagine. I mean, she felt everything that everyone was feeling, including herself, all the time. I mean, she was just one of those super empaths, which is actually sometimes crippling for people. And it's hard for them to walk down the street in, say, New York City, because they seem to genuinely feel everything that's going on. They're so
almost
open.
Like a full body synesthesia.
That's right. Yeah. Right.
My wife calls it the divine feminine.
Right. So, this woman experienced that, and it was such an odd combination that worked for us, meaning our very distinct opposite sides of the coin for a long time until it didn't. And I didn't have the vocabulary or even like conceptual schema to understand why she did certain things the way she did it. And it was because I didn't have the ABCs of emotion in myself. And,
because it was so locked down.
Yeah, it was so locked down. It was so locked down that I didn't realize it was even a thing, if that makes any sense.
Well, I think, it
just seemed irrelevant and unpredictable and...
Right. Like, this is not productive.
Yeah.
This is not moving me forward. And my way works because look at all these books that I've written and look what I'm doing out in the world. And with my, character makeup, I got into Princeton and I did. So there's no reason to be self-reflective about it because you're succeeding in the eyes of culture and society, right? Right.
But I would say almost never in my own eyes. There was always something I could have done better. There was always something I screwed up. And it was a fear of losing that kept me moving more than any joy of winning. And
never being able to just like experience joy and gratitude for the things that you have been able to accomplish. That has been a practice that I've worked on in the last few years in particular. Is there a fear of losing it that accompanies that? That it's all going to go away, or just not being able to be happy with it? Well, we could answer that as Tim of, say, 2 years ago or Tim of today. Tim of 2 years ago.
Tim of 2 years ago, Tim of 5 years ago especially, felt a tremendous amount of obligation to a lot of people and to support a lot of people and to prepare to support even more people. And I felt like I had to build a war chest just for that. So it was not a love of money. It was not a love of achievement. A lot of it was a fear of letting other people down or
it's a lot of pressure.
Yeah. Causing pain of some type for people I love. And I'm past that at this point. I mean, very fortunately, I've had a good string of luck and successes. So it's put me in a position where I can support other people. But the fact of the matter is, I realized, I'd say 2 years ago, but especially in the last 6 months, very recent, that, and this is the part that would make my Tim of 5 years ago just
cringe,
like vomit a little in his own mouth, which is, I'm not going to mince words. I still have trouble saying this, but like self-love is not an indulgence. It's not a nice to have. It is a prerequisite. Even if all you want to do is feel successful and take care of the people you love the most, to really take care of them, you have to, as I've heard said, put on your oxygen mask first. Mm-hmm. And if you don't do that, like you are also shortchanging your ability to care for other people completely. And that's been a very, very much a 180 degree about face for me. Right. Because for a long time, I was like, I don't need to care for myself. Mm-hmm. Like that's, the word keeps coming back to me, which is self-indulgent. Like, is this self-indulgent? Mm-hmm. Like, who cares?
But ultimately, it's really self-flagellation, right?
Yeah.
Because you can't transmit something you haven't got. So in other words, you can't love another unless you love yourself. And you can't be the best teacher or servant or human being. You can't convey the best version of yourself if you don't carry that resonance for your own being.